for the sake of argument, I got 2 coins right here. I got an American half dollar and I got a British pen. You guys see it? American, British. Nick,
Yes.
what do you like, American or British?
British.
You like the British. So I'm going to take the American. I'm going to put it in my pocket. Okay? What coin do I have in my hand? British. Okay, maybe I went too fast for you. Raymond, you. So I have an American and I got a British. What do you like? Like the American. So I'm going to take the British and I'm going to put it in my pocket. What coin do I have in my hand? So let me explain something. It's called the 2-coin trick, okay? You know why it's called the 2-coin trick? Give it a guess. It takes 2 coins. So I'll do it a little bit differently right now. So I'll take an American, British. I'll take the American coin and I'm going to separate them. And I'm going to basically take the American, put it in my pocket. What coin do I have in my hand? British? Okay, so again, remember, it's called the 2-coin trick. It takes 2 coins to make it happen. Last chance. Your name, please. Liz. So you see 2 coins, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to take this British, and I'm going to put it in my pocket. What coin do I have in my hand? Last chance, okay? Because remember, it's called the 2-coin trick. American. 2 coins. Okay, she's catching on. Anybody else? 2 coins. 2 coins. Okay, I'll tell you what. I got some magic dust in my back pocket. I'm going to drop some in, snap my fingers. I'm going to make everything disappear. So here's the thing. Anything you do. So the reason I wanted to show a magic trick is because I wanted you to understand that every single thing in life, it doesn't matter if it's business, personal, pleasure, it has a pitch. Last part, don't scratch that. But the point I'm trying to make is like if you can command, one, English language, if you could command it, and if you could command the facts of any type of business, people will listen. People will pay attention, right? So real estate is an art form. If you can look at it as an art form, I guarantee you that you could be very, very successful. Because people can automatically see that one, your interest in it just doesn't lie in just making money, but your interest in it is because you really enjoy the art, you know? So in saying that, that's one of the reasons why I put together this this class. Of course, this is an introductory class. We have a number of different classes that get into how to be a very good, successful commercial real estate advisor. My main goal in real estate is I'm a developer. We have over $50 million worth of development deals going on right now in Southern California. We're negotiating about another $100 million. And hopefully by the end of next year, we'll have a lot of properties to actually release. So in saying that, what we're about to introduce is actually exactly designed how institutional investors actually look at projects, you know, how they analyze deals. This is important because, as you know, 20 years ago, 99% of all deals are mom and pop. That means individual homeowners, investors that have a little bit of cash that want to invest in commercial real estate, right? Would you believe me, right now, almost we're passing a 20 percentile in institutional investment in large-scale commercial investment. You know what that means? That if you, as a realtor, don't understand the brass tacks of a deal, the nuts and bolts of it, you will be left behind. You know, in the next 10 years, there's a huge shift in the market. The new tax law that's passed is favored on the investor side, not on the homeowner side, so you want to take advantage of it. Any questions up to now, real quick? Okay, so as I go through this, one of the things I want you guys to do is I know we're going to have a lot of questions. I want you to write them down. I want you to just write them down, and at the end of this entire process, we'll have a Q&A, and you guys can ask me as many questions as you want within a 2-minute period. No, I'm kidding. It's about 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, so that way you could have hopefully I could clear up any questions that you guys have. So let's get to it. How about that? Sorry, normally I have a pen, but I'll have to change the slides on my own. So who done commercial real estate here? 1, 2, Rick. How long have you guys been doing commercial? 6 years?
Yeah, throughout that, yeah, me too.
Okay. So you guys understand the overall what needs to happen on any commercial deal, you know? Okay. So the typical 5 are multifamily, retail, office, hotels, and industrial, right? Now I added 3, but let's just talk about the first 5 first. Every single type of asset class has a set parameters that you need to follow. Not every property is the same. We know that, right? The last 3, the special purpose, a little example of a special purpose real estate asset, a hospital is considered a special purpose, you know? They do sell, especially when it's privately owned. You know, other insurance companies buy up another hospital. It happens all the time.
Is that the same for a church?
Yeah, church is special purpose, absolutely. You know, mixed use. Now, mixed use projects in the infill location, there are going to be more and more of these, especially when new developments are kicking in. And a mixed use project can comprise a variety of different aspects. Usually it's comprised of multifamily retail, multifamily office, a combination of those 3, okay? That's what we're seeing right now, everywhere in the US, especially in the prime metropolitan areas. Land development, my favorite. So if you guys have good land properties, please let me know, because if it makes sense, if it pencils in for me, I will be able to get one of my institutional guys to come on board and partner with me to buy the deal, okay? Now, one of the key, let me go to the next slide actually, hold on. Before I get into the actual program, I wanted us to work on a quick exercise. What I do normally is what they call a back of the envelope calculation.
What?
A back of the envelope calculation.
What is that?
Anybody got a muzzle? Is that Cynthia? That's Cynthia. I could tell. I could hear her. Oh, you don't want to come up here and?
We can't hear back here.
Oh, I'm not loud enough?
That's the only reason why.
Okay. I'm not loud enough?
You have your mic on? I don't think so.
I thought I'm loud enough because everybody tells me to shut up over here. You know?
No, we weren't saying shut up. We're just saying what was that? So the back.
Yeah.
Do you guys have it in your hand?
Yeah. There's a handout for you guys that I gave. So back of the envelope calculation it's a qualifier, what we call, okay? So I gave you a little overview. It's a rough calculation to qualify a property. It's used to determine whether further research and more detailed calculations are warranted. It should take you no more than 60 seconds to quickly assess based on what's on the market. So if a property is on the market, if you should be able to figure out that, hey, can I qualify this property to move forward and look into it more, okay? Now, there was a bunch of listings that I gave you guys, 4 of them. Do you guys see them? Now, I want us to walk through one, okay? This one is actually, I think, the second property that I actually did on Excel, okay? Now, I'm going to show you how to do it on a simple calculator within 60 seconds. Now, this is important because without understanding this element, and if you guys start pitching deals to your investors, 2 things are going to happen. One, you got lucky and it's a great deal, and the investors say, okay, let's move forward. 2, they automatically know that you don't know what you're doing. All right? It's a 50-50 chance. Are you guys willing to take it? You know, this is not Vegas, guys. You have to be able to be on point. Okay? So I'm going to kind of write some stuff down. So let's pick the first one. The very first one. Now I'm going to do one, and I want you guys to do another one on your own. Okay? And we're going to do it together. Oh shoot! I do need my phone. So I'm going to show you how to do this. And one thing I want you guys to remember is this can be done really, really quick. All you need to know is the revenue on a property, or what they call gross scheduled income. Okay. Give me the gross scheduled income for the first property, or what they call GSI.
388,200.
388,200. Okay.
That's a
No. I need the gross. It should, gross scheduled income. Okay, so the gross operating income. Okay, so already I could tell that the listing agent on this property screwed up. All right, because he put it under the GOI, gross operating income. All right, you never put gross scheduled income as that. But for the sake of argument, let's add these up and multiply by 12. Give me the first number.
388,200.
Oh no. Below.
5,000?
Is it
We talk about,
this one?
oh, that's pro forma.
Yeah.
28,000.
It's 28,000.
28,000.
Okay. Plus
Plus 2129
2129 plus
plus 2221.
2221. I want you to put a line underneath there and put 32,350. 350. And multiply that by 12. Actually, it is 388,200. So he just put the information in the wrong place. Okay? Can we make some copies real quick? Let's just wait a few seconds because I do want to have everybody having this because this is important. Because this is truly one of the key things I do on every single property, guys. It doesn't matter what type of asset. I'm going to walk through this and then I'll write the formula up. Okay? Because okay, so I'll do it right now. Let's walk through it one exercise real quick, and then I want you guys to do it on the next 3, okay? And I'll give you guys about 10 minutes just to do it, okay? Oh, okay, no problem. Hey guys, if I'm going too fast, just ask me to slow down because I tend to talk quick, and I understand, you know? Except you, Audi.
So you're saying, Pavan, that
Oh.
the total rent on which one is the one that we're calculating?
The second one, it's 10528 Arlington Avenue. That's the one we're looking at. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. The first one is, what is the address? Garfield Avenue. Huh? I don't need it. Oh. Anybody need this? Yeah, sorry, I can't. I'm not a good writer. I'm an accountant. Come on. My writing is worse than a doctor, okay? That's why I use a computer all the time.
It's horrible.
Hey, Nick is my bodyguard. I'm gonna have him go after you. Raymond too, by the way. And we got a bunch of muzzles. Yeah, tough crowd. Yeah, you're right. I get heckled all the time. I'm telling you. I'm glad Cynthia's way over there. Oh, there she is. All right, she's coming this way. Be quiet.
On to Garfield property, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that, the GSI, I have it on the handout.
Okay. So I'm gonna explain some of these elements real quick. So we have a GSI is what they call gross scheduled income, right? This is the overall income revenue that's being generated on a property. Now, there's a vacancy factor because this, and I use 5%. Now, when you're on the fly, basically you would do 1 minus 5% equals what? 95%, right? 0.95 for the sake of argument, okay? Right here, 1 minus 0.35 equals 0.65. Now, when you're on the road looking at a listing real quick, what I want you to do is I want you to take the gross scheduled income and multiply it by 95%. And multiply it by 95%. The reason I got 95% is we're taking 5% as a vacancy factor. So 100% minus 5% is 95%. So you will multiply the 388,200 times 0.95. What is it? 368,790. Okay?
Times it by what, 95%?
0.95 or 95%. Now, typically, an expense factor that you use is about 35%. To do it on the fly, you do 100% minus 35% is what? 65%, right? So you will multiply this.
I have a quick question.
Yes, go for it.
Okay, let's start with the vacancy factor. I'm a little bit, I'm a little slow, you know.
No. Okay. No. Well, this, I actually want you to ask me right now.
On this one, okay. So, let's say you said vacancy factor 5%, so 1 minus 5%, I'm looking at that.
Yep.
So, equals 0.95.
Yeah.
So, the reason why, where did you get the 1 from and then why did you?
1 is a 100%.
Okay, 100%.
Yeah, but in a mathematical situation, 100% is equal to 1.
Okay.
Okay? So 5% is equal to 0.05.
Okay.
Okay? Now, I use 0.95. Don't mind the lines because I kind of just wanted to get to the GOI. You take this, multiply by 0.95, you get the gross operating income, which is 368,790. Okay? You guys got that? Okay. So the next step is taking into consideration your expense factor. Okay? Typically, you have a rule of thumb expense of 35%. Okay, so what is 1 minus 35%? 65. So if it's 65, it's 0.65, right? So I want you to take the gross operating income, multiply that by 0.65. So in this case, it's 368,790 times 0.65. Yes. 239. 713. 713.50. Okay. So this is what we call a net operating income. Everything. Taxes, insurance, maintenance, property management, everything. Now, I want you guys to understand something. When people list properties, they do not take two major components into question. Insurance and property taxes are incorrect all the time. 99% of the time. You know why? What?
Based on the new sales price?
Yes. What law is that?
What law?
Proposition 13. right? Because reassessment happens when a property is sold on a marketable sale, right? So you got 239, 713, 15. I put a little chart right at the bottom. It's blank right now. Okay, so I have two values, cap rate and value, right? Now, I want you to put a range of cap rate from 3.75%, 4%, 4.25%, and 4.5%. Okay, I'll tell you why I use these, okay? Multifamily in the city of Downey are trading. When I use the word trade, it's sold, okay? It's a terminology that institutional investors use all the time. We're trading properties like they're trading stock. You know, it's just a term. So now what we want to find out is what is the value for these 4 cap rates? And how do you find out? Anybody can tell me? Okay, so basically, capitalization rate is a type of is a return on investment based on market trends. Okay. So you take the net operating income and divide it by the cap rate, the desired cap rate. So basically, it's NOI divided by cap. Okay, equals value. Now I want us to find all 4 values. So basically what you do, you take the net operating income, you divide it by the cap rate.
Where do you get the cap rate from?
I wrote it down. So yeah, so this, and I'll explain why I got this. Multifamily properties in the city of Downey are trading in this range right now.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's the reason, you know. And believe it or not, when all the classes are taken, you'll know the ins and outs of every single element of real estate and how to assess it. Can you two hear me? I'm loud enough? Okay.
So I have a question over here, sir.
Sure.
So you're saying the NOI is 239,713.50,
Mhm.
correct? So then, just to get clarification.
Let's do the first one, 3.75 cap.
Well, actually, I want to go back a little bit more just so I can understand the numbers.
Okay?
So when you're getting 65% of expense, okay, we have the GOI, which is 368, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So the 368, 790. If I multiply that, you know, as you have it, put the 0.65, I'm going to get the 239.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Got it. If I multiply that times 35%, that'll give me the amount of expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's correct.
So
Now, keep in mind, the BOE is designed to quickly assess it, you know?
right.
So,
Let's clarify something really quickly here. So when you guys multiply it by 0.65, it's going to automatically give you the NOI. When we multiply it times 35, it's going to give us the amount of expenses. Okay? So that is the NOI. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. We just want to clarify something with numbers.
was that clear? Better?
Yeah, it was just that at one point you had the 239 as the expense. We were confused if that was either expense or NOI.
Oh.
You moved the NOI up.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I wrote it way down here. I should have. I apologize. Like I said, my writing skills aren't the best, guys. So
It is the NOI.
it is NOI. Yeah. What does NOI stand for?
So that 35,
Percent is an expense factor.
and you're using that regardless of what they put here that they have?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why in a minute.
What is the expense factor covered?
Property management, taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, reserves. Yeah, everything. Everything you could think of. Now, keep in mind, 35% is a general rule of thumb. It could be less, it could be more. You know why? I'll give you a prime example. Let's just say the rents are really, really low, you know? Reality is, if the rents are low, most likely the expense factor of 35% might not even cut it. It might be 50, 55. It can be. That's why what we want to do is we want to see, does this property warrant us to go any further? If the answer is no, let's just say they're asking for $5 million and your quick calculations only give you $3 million, likelihood it's not even worth your time going after it on behalf of your investor. Why would you even present it to your investor? Because the first thing the investors say is like, well, why are we offering $3 million, but they want 5? You're just spinning your wheels, because the seller automatically thinks his property is worth this high. Okay, and the agent that actually took the listing is an idiot. Sorry, I don't mean to be so rough, but I see this all the time. You know, I know somebody right now that has a whole bunch of listings. Sorry.
Okay, so one thing I want to clarify, you guys, just to make it simple for the math, because I know we're just getting everything. So another way you can do the math, okay, it's not confusing, really simple. You get your gross scheduled income. Instead of doing it times 95, multiply it times 5, okay? But you're going to have to subtract it. That's the math that we're just missing there, okay? So once you subtract the 5%, you're going to get the GOI, which is a 368,790. Same math, okay? When we get there, instead of multiplying it by 0.65, multiply it times 35, so it's a 35%. That's how much the expenses are, but you're going to have to subtract it, okay? And that will give you the NOI of 239. Yes, everyone.
So what she's saying is correct, but here's the thing: when you're trying to do something on the fly, you have to do things quickly, right? So instead of adding an extra line item for an expense factor and then getting your NOI, why not just cut it out of the equation right from the start? That's why when you take 1 minus the expense factor, it leaves you 65%, right? That's why it makes it so much easier when you're just trying to get a quick calculation.
So what Pavan's trying to do, you guys, if you're on the phone and you're prospecting, and you go ahead, sit right here. If you're on the phone prospecting, this calculation is to eliminate steps. So you could be like, oh, what's your income? Oh, really? And there you are calculating, because times 95, times 65. And there you go. Oh, well, what cap rate? It's just to make the math simple for you. So when you're on the phone, it's shorter steps, okay? But you guys.
It's really, yeah.
With you again, so you guys can get it. So don't worry about it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Back up.
So now keep in mind, I'm going to get to the nitty gritty of this when we actually get into the finance section. But for now, I want you to take this NOI and divide it by 0.0375, which is 3.75%. Okay? You already have it? 392. 346. I'm just keeping it round numbers. Give me the 4%.
5, 992, 825. 5, 640, 305. 305. And the last one is 5, 326, 955.
What are they asking for?
6. That's a reduced price, but it's still overpriced.
I always thought that the higher the cap rates,
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Let me look at it one more time. Okay. So I did have one question for everybody. Who has Excel? Yes. Oh, well, I mean, do you guys have Excel at home on your computers? Okay, so you want to do commercial, you better have Excel. All right? If you don't, $99 a year is what's going to cost you to get Excel on your computer.
And then you should have the formula set up. Is that right?
I'll give you formulas. Yeah, no problem. I'll give. You guys can always reach out to me to get the formulas and understand a lot of things. Okay. So.
so obviously the higher the cap rate, the better the deal.
Yes. Now, the higher the cap rate can also means there's a lot of risk in the market. And I'll tell you what that means a little bit later. Places like in the Midwest, cap rates are high because there's abundance of inventory, and literally there's a higher turnover when there's so much supply. So with supply being like, let's just say 1 to 2 ratio, meaning for every one person there's 2 units. It's an oversupplied market. In the Midwest, it happens a lot. Okay, California, Los Angeles, don't worry about it. unless you're in the outskirts, Palmdale, Hemet. Yes, definitely. Now, remember, guys, just food for thought. Palmdale, Hemet, these are what they call tier 2 markets, which we assess in a different way. But we're not going to get into that right now.
So, he said that the higher the cap rate, the better it is, but the value is less down.
Because you're going to be buying it at a better price.
Oh, okay, got it.
And there's a reason why you want to buy it at a higher cap rate, and we'll get into that on the finance side.
That would be the purchase price?
That's what you will be making an offer on. So it's like, dear investor, we found this property that has a GSI at 388,000. Based on my calculations, I think the net operating income is 239. The value cap ranges from 5 million to 6.4. What do you want to make an offer on? How much? They're asking for 6.4 million bucks.
And these are, what are these numbers?
A capitalization rate. A cap rate is, so let's just say you're paying all cash, okay? A cap rate is simply your return on your investment. So, but if it's levered, cap rates are a little tricky to explain. But the fact is, when you're buying it all cash, your return on investment is the same as your cap rate at that moment, at least.
Question.
Yes.
So if you're representing the buyer, you're saying that the properties are being traded right now between 3 3/4 and 4.5. So if you're representing the buyer, where would you pull an average?
Oh, I would.
Or you go
I offer 4.4.
4?
Yeah.
Okay, so on the low end.
Yeah, I want them to come back to me and tell me, no, I think your offer is too low. Well, I want more. Well, tell me why. I'll give you more. There's a lot of factors that go into valuation, but yeah.
A while ago, you said those caps are for this area down.
But LA for the most part, actually.
Say Riverside or
Riverside, I think this is a little bit higher. I haven't. Yeah, but literally, the Riverside cap rates would be a little bit higher. So, did that answer your question? Okay.
LA right now is averaging about 3 to 4%.
LA, yeah. 3% mainly because the rents are low, right? You guys seen it? Rent control, that's always the biggest issue, and which I have an issue with, but that's a different story. How is everybody doing back there? No, okay. I want you to look at it this way.
Not you. Did we lose you, Julia? No, not me.
Who did we lose back here? You guys got it? Okay. The reason I wanted to give you guys this, because before you waste your time on any property, and going through the process that I'm gonna show you that we're gonna teach in the next couple of months, you guys have to be able to do this. You guys have to practice this. So basically, remember, GSI times 0.91 gets the gross scheduled income times 0.95, which takes into the vacancy factor, gives you the gross operating income. Now, gross operating income minus 0.65, which takes into the expense factor of 35%, gives you the net operating income. And then you do a cap table based on these, based on 4 or 5 different numbers, okay? Then you actually have a better understanding of your value range. Now the question is, we need to understand your investor, what's their risk tolerance? How much capital do they have? Are they really just wanting to buy and place money somewhere? Or are they looking for the value add? There's a lot of factors that you would have to ask your investor, but that's something that we'll talk at a later date. I'm going to leave this up because we might be coming back to this in a little bit.
This is based on a cash offer, though, right? Not a loan.
Your return on investment? Yes, that's correct. That's based on a cash offer.
How do you know it's based on a cash offer?
Because when you put it on when you pay all cash, your return on investment is the same as the cap rate. Because reality is, if your net operating income is this much and you put in $6 million, your return on it is 3.75. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Now, if the person is buying it, say, with a 60% loan to value, would you still use that just to get a roundabout figure?
So let me get into the loan to value when I touch the financials, because loan to value is very tricky when it comes to commercial. You know, I want you guys to keep this in your mind. Food for thought. There's two elements of commercial lending: LTV, which is loan to value, and debt service coverage ratio. Lender takes the less of two, and I'll explain what that means. Okay? Can I go to the next slide? We're going to just walk through this real quick. Okay. Okay, so we're right here. Introduction to commercial real estate, right? Now, as I mentioned, this program is truly designed as a case study format, because I want you guys to understand all different elements of a property, not just financials, because understanding financials is great. It tells a story. But if you could understand the market, if you could understand how to conduct due diligence on a property, it will actually excel you a lot further, because it will teach you all the elements of these three categories. Now, the first class is actually property information. One of the things I will focus on is trying to teach you how to understand the property and and all the specs associated with the property. What documents need to be gathered, and so on and so on. Market analysis. I want you to understand how the market trends are. What's going on within that local market? Let's just say the city of Downey. What are properties trading at? What's the vacancy rate? All of these elements will help you not only when you actually get into the financial analysis, but when you have a Q&A session with your investor after you do this pitch. These are questions that people are going to ask, you know, and because you already conducted this research, I guarantee you, it doesn't matter what property you're at in the city of Downey, you'll be able to answer it on the fly. You just became an expert of commercial, let's just say, a multifamily assets in the city of Downey. Think about being able to do that in multiple cities, multiple areas. You know how well off you would be, and how investors will view you as somebody that they feel confident in working with. That's what you want. You want investors to say, okay, hey, let's talk to Pavan, let's talk to Ritu. Hey, what's going on here? You know, can you tell me a little background of the market? You know, you'll be able to answer it. You don't need a property specific to be able to answer that. It's market driven. Everything is market driven. Okay. Now, financial analysis. Basically, you'll take data that you gathered here, and actually create your financial models. You'll have two types. One is as is, actual, meaning what the property is telling you. Two is pro forma, what could be possible. What if, right? Now, the pitch decks. Now, people usually use the word operating memorandum. They use investment prospectus. I call it a pitch deck because that's how I was taught, you know. And a pitch deck allows you to truly cater to either side, buyer or seller, you know. If it's a seller, knowing these elements are important. I mean, if it's a buyer, okay? If it's a seller, basically you're going to have to gather this information, right? So same rules apply. It's just, you know, in certain cases, you might not be in depth in understanding that information, okay? So let's talk about the property data. So I already found there's already a property that we're going to use. It's a 20-unit apartment building right here in Downey. We will probably do a site visit. I'm waiting for the owner to confirm that I'm allowed to take a bunch of people to the property and walk through the site. And I'm going to walk you through every single piece of the property. Well, let me rephrase it. Places that are common and that we're not going to be interrupting tenants. Because I want you guys to have the ability to touch and feel a property. I want you to be able to understand those elements, not on paper, but in real life. I always believe that most people fully understand the concepts if they could actually see it in action in the field. Would you guys agree? Okay. Would you guys like to do something like that?
Yes.
Okay, good. So property types and specs. Okay, so like I said, the first this whole set of classes are going to be focused on multifamily, okay? This property type, multifamily specs, is 10 one bedrooms, 10 two bedrooms, okay? Of course, the unit mix, the amenities, it did have a pool, but they filled it in with dirt, but we could talk about that at another time. We will talk about leases and types of leases. I want to go back. So this same format will work for every single property. If it's a hotel, if it's a retail, if it's a office, these are the same elements that you're going to be gathering. It doesn't matter what type of asset class it is. That's why I kept it very broad. Leases, we have to be very careful here because every single type of asset has a different type of lease structure. Prime example is multifamily. They have either term lease or month-to-month. You know, there's no creative leases structures or nothing like that. Office, you know, triple net, gross, so on and so on. And I'll explain all of that when we actually get into the office. Retail, one of the most trickiest retail lease agreement is when they have what they called, I'm trying to remember the name. Shoot. I just had it at the top. It's at the tip of my tip of my tongue.
You know what I say when you can't remember something.
Oh, shish. Break point. Well, I'll get back to that. So current rent rolls. One of the things that we will gather is all the rent rolls on a property, okay? Expense documents. Sometimes we will be able to get them, sometimes we won't, but I'll be able to provide you the specifics of these expenses on this property, okay? Utility expenses, taxes, insurance. Now, keep in mind, remember what I mentioned? Taxes and insurance are going to be different. This information, because it's an LA County property, we'll be able to figure out ourselves. And I'll show you how to get the supplemental tax data and make an assessment on it. Maintenance costs, other costs associated with it. Now, the last one is really, so zoning laws, land use restriction, municipal code. If it's already a fully built building, it's irrelevant, especially on a multifamily. But let's just talk about a retail lease, okay? Land use restrictions are going to be very, very important on retail lease because not every single commercial property will allow a specific type of tenancy on that property. Land use restrictions might require that tenancy to actually have what they call a CUP, conditional use permit. And that's something that we will talk about when we get into the retail elements, okay? Now, the other reason I brought this up is I talked about highest and best use. I love land because I love playing on dirt. Okay, yes, I know, I get it, I know how that sounds. Oh, be quiet. Hey, who got rocks I want to throw? She has tomatoes, so I got to be careful. So land, I'll actually, when we get into that portion, I'll actually teach you guys how the entitlement process works. What you need to look for, what information you need to gather from the city, how to actually get your mock-up, you know, and basically be able to take steps to analyze the entire property because this part is land development is probably the most complex real estate transaction that you will ever do. Everything, after you do one of those, everything else is going to be a piece of cake. I guarantee you.
Really? Because everything you have to do.
Yes.
is involved.
Yep. Now, with land development, not only do you have to understand all these different types of asset classes, you also need to understand the law to the T. You need, you know, does that make sense? Okay.
State law you're talking about?
The municipal code.
Oh, okay.
Okay, municipal code, building code, fire code. Okay, so these are all important. Now, if you're doing multifamily, you also have to understand fair housing laws. So, I mean, and I'm not talking about just, you know, what you're taught in real estate school, okay? Municipal code. So municipal code is local, which is the planning division code. Okay, building code is state level. Fire code is state level. All right. Fair housing is state and federal, and the fair housing is part of 11A, section 11A of the building code. So, but that's we'll talk about.
Laws and information that we need to go to the city and get.
Yes, but what questions to ask, when to ask it, and how to ask it is going to be very, very important. Okay? Can I go to the next section, guys? So market analysis. I already mentioned the reason you do market analysis is because you actually want to understand the market trends. What's happening in the local market? What properties are trading at? What's happening? Now, a demographic study, now, most realtors don't understand this or not taught this because most of the time it's unnecessary. We just assume that things are going to happen because it's a market-driven it's a market-driven scenario, right? So, understanding the supply and demand is something that's going to be very important. So, for a multifamily, items like household size and income are going to be very important. So City of Downey household size on average is about 2.8. Meaning that if there's going to be any new builds or you're going to buy a property, you have to assume that it needs to be able to house that size of a family within these units. So if you have a bunch of studios, I'll tell you to run. Don't buy it. And there's a risk element related to unit mix, which I will talk about at a later time. Okay? Employment data. So why is that important? Can anybody tell me?
Because that's how you're gonna rent the spaces. If you don't have the employment, no one is gonna rent.
Yeah, so employment data, meaning what type of employment happens in the city. Why is that important? Salaries are good.
What they're making annually, the people that are.
What type of asset class will it most impact? Office. Okay, so you have a new office building that you just built. Okay, knowing what type of employers that are in the local market, you're going to start catering to those type of people, where the demand is for type of employers, right? So, for example, if I was leasing up an office space, I will actually try to reach out to all these employers that are very influential in the local market. Hospitals are definitely a good option, but there's office spaces that professionals need, lawyers, white collar, professional services. But you also have other types of services that like back office operation that are used, like telemarketers. Real estate brokerage firms, we're an office. We're a professional office firm right here. Insurance agencies. All of these are office-related items. So understanding employer data on how much demand of that type of employers have in the market is important, because that's how I would reach out to those type of employers and let them know, hey, we have this office space for lease, and I think it'll be a perfect fit for you, because it has all the amenities that you are looking for, Retail spending habits. That's an easy tell. There's already a clue in there. In the demographic data, you could actually get this information for a city. And can you tell me why that's important?
Yeah, because if you're gonna come into that city, you wanna know what people are spending.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And prime example, let's just say you want to open a yoga studio. Hot yoga, yes. Woo woo. Just what I wanted. I got my spandex ready to go at home. Yeah, no, I was kidding. I know. Poor joke. I apologize. But let's just say you have a client that wants to open up a yoga studio in Vernon. I'm using this as an extreme. Yeah. Why? Don't match, right? It wouldn't. They will lose money, right? We as real estate professionals, we're going to steer them away. Yes, steering is not always a good thing, but in the commercial space, you want to steer them away to something that makes sense. So, you researching spending habits of the consumer in the local market is going to be helpful, because they will understand where you need to go. Comparable properties. As mentioned, sales comparables are going to be very important. On a multifamily, if you have a 20-unit building, You don't want to compare it to a 4-unit building, just like you do on a single-family home. There's appraisal guidelines, right? Multifamily, office, retail had the same exact scenario. Condition, quality are important when you're looking at comparable sales. This is all part of market analysis. So remember what I mentioned in the city of Downey? These are the cap rates. Your market research will tell you what type of cap rates the properties are trading at on the multifamily side, retail side, and so on and so on. Rent comparables. If you analyze the market and understand rents are at X, but your property that you're looking at are much lower, then there's an upside potential, right? So you can make that assessment when you do your financial calculations. Market vacancy rate is another important element. City of Downey has a 1.9% market vacancy rate right now. Well, as of a quarter ago. What does that mean for the City of Downey?
Too many people.
Too many people. That's one. Absolutely. Not enough product, right? That means we need people to build more, or kick everybody out, one or the other, What were you going to say? Oh, so when you do comparable sales on the rents, so let's just say you looked at 6 properties that are 2-bedroom, 1-bath, right, in the market, and they say in the City of Downey, a high-end 2-bedroom, 1-bath you can rent at $2,200. Mid-grade can rent for like $1,700. The low end rents at $1,200 to $1,300. So let's compare this subject property. That's a high quality unit, but that's only renting at $1,400, right? So there's an upside potential there. Downey has no rent control, and God forbid these leases are month to month. Guess what I'm going to do? Sorry. Right off the bat, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to raise the rent 10% every year until I get it to a certain point. It happens everywhere. That's why the state is trying to pass a rent control law. That's a statewide that cities can actually, protect tenants. I have a love-hate relationship, love-hate scenario for that because one, I think it's a good thing. The bad thing is I don't want government regulations stopping free market. Okay, so I'm on both sides of the fence, and I don't know which way to go, but that's me. I'm going to go to the financial analysis real quick.
Any questions, you guys, on this? Wait, just one quick question.
Yeah.
So your sales comparable, so you're really not running comps because there's not a lot to compare it with. So your comps are basically your cap rates.
So sales comps. So other multifamily did sell.
Right. Well, let's say we're doing the comps for bigger.
Yeah, buildings. So there isn't that many. So you throw a wider net.
Okay.
So my development deal that I'm working on, the 12-unit apartment building that I'm building, right here in Downey, we had to go because brand new, right? So I had to throw a wide net all the way from Fullerton all the way in, and look at the most closely resembled comparable properties for that development, and that's how I found out that the cap rates for brand new build are trading around 4%, give or take. For brand new, that's actually good.
So it doesn't matter the area more than the cap rate?
You make adjustments just like you would do on a residential property, right? So if, for example, Downey's renting at, let's just say $3,000, but Bellflower is renting at $2,500, you make an adjustment to that, just like you would on any other property. It's an appraisal element, right? So can I go to the, okay, so on the financial analysis class, now one thing you do need is an Excel spreadsheet, guys. It's very, very important, okay? I will give you guys the basic terminologies and their definitions. Those that want to get into commercial real estate, these terminologies are going to be thrown at you all the time. The question is, are you knowledgeable enough to understand those? And that's one of the things I want to make sure that you guys have a full understanding of those concepts and how they're how they're used in the market, and how you could use it to. One, if you're going to use it, I want you guys to sound good using it, um, preparing a profit and loss statement, or what they call an income statement, right? Now, we will take what we learned in the property data and the market research, and we will prepare a profit and loss statement as is and the market pro forma. And we'll do it for 5 or 10 years, okay? Do you guys know the difference between operational expenses and non-operational expenses? Give me an operational expense, direct cost expense. Okay, landscaping, water, utilities, okay? Taxes, insurance, property management. These are all direct cost operational expenses, okay? Give me, there isn't a lot, non-operational expenses. No. Mm-mm. That's promotions, that's part of direct. Huh? No, that's direct. Yeah. Legal costs would be direct. I'll give you one. A loan. All right? Yeah. When you get a loan against a property, it's not a direct cost. It's an indirect cost associated to the property. That's why they call it a non-operational expense. You know, because it doesn't show up. It will show up on your income statement as an interest expense only. But the fact is, your real NOI should not include that. Your NOI should only include direct expenses, and then you get your other expenses out of the way. For example, your interest expense, and you have your taxable income. That's where you actually put, from an accounting standpoint, that's where you would actually put it. Other non-operational expenses, which is tax related, which is your depreciation, and you keep track of that. You know. You'll learn part of the terminology, the financial calculations, cap rates, how are they derived, GRM, gross rent multiplier, what that means and why it's so widely used. And there's in my personal take, I don't like using GRMs. Personally, I think it's used widely, but I think there's a lot of holes in it that it doesn't give you the full picture, you know. So I try not to just base all my decisions on what is the GRM on a property. It's 10, huh? A gross rent multiplier. So let's just say you're making $388,000. Let's just say $100,000, and you have a 10 GRM, right? So that means they're selling it for $1 million. So it's 10 times the gross scheduled income. That's the gross rent multiplier. So they're selling it for $1 million. That means they're selling it at a 10x, you know, at 10x the gross rent multiplier. Does that make sense? No. Okay, so basically, gross rents are $100,000 a year. Okay. Yeah, on a property. Yeah, for annually. Annually. So, I'm the seller. I'm making $100,000 a year in revenue. Okay, and I want to sell it for $1 million. The GRM, gross rent multiplier, is 10x because it's 10 times the rents. That's basically. Does that make sense? Okay. Lender analysis. Now this is highly important. Okay, so I talked to so many lenders, and believe it or not, they get annoyed. No. It varies. So, for example, if you will look at one of these 4 properties, one is a 17.4 GRM, which means it's highly overpriced. All right, I'm not buying anything at 17% or 17.9. An institutional investor will laugh at it and say, "Yeah, 16.9 GRM." Yeah. Does that make sense? Better? Okay. I want a 5. No, I'm kidding. Okay. No. That's not 4. 17.4. Yeah, that's high. That's very high. Did you have a question?
No, it's okay.
No.
I'll wait until. No, because I was going to ask, can you use pro forma
For the
GRM
yeah, sure.
to come up with a value?
You can.
So you can base your offer on that?
You could do that. Here's the thing, though. If you're basing your your valuation based on pro forma, what's the benefit for me as an investor to buy into it? I'm buying into your property based on future value for the work that I'm going to have to do, right? So I'm not going to give you the money for work that I have to do. You do the work, put it together, and get it and sell it to me then, right? It's business because no one's going to pay future value unless there's a tremendous upside. Two, no one's going to pay a value and take on the work because you're telling him, I mean, he's an idiot, in my opinion, okay?
Got it.
Are lenders lending more on actual rent or
Actual. And we're going to get into that right now. So now keep in mind, guys, all of this is just an overview. When we get to the nuts and bolts of each one of these classes, we're really going to dig in. And I want you to really, really understand the mechanics of a deal, okay? So the next one is the lender analysis. What's an LTV, guys? Okay. What is a DSCR? It's called a debt service coverage ratio, okay? Now,
Debt coverage service ratio.
yeah, debt, D-E-B-T, service coverage ratio, or DCR, debt coverage ratio, you know. Now, a conversation I have with lenders all the time, you know, a realtor calls them and said, hey, what's the maximum loan that you will give? What's the LTV value for this commercial property? And the lender tells them the maximum that we will give is 75% of the purchase price. So automatically the realtor thinks that, oh shoot, it's $1 million purchase. I could get $750,000 loan. They go and tell their client, I could get you a loan for $750 because my lender told me so. Well, guess what? You just screwed up.
Why?
Because both of these elements have to match.
Not just the LTV.
Yeah. This is what the lender should have told you. This is their mistake. One, they should have said, we'll give you up to 75% loan to value, conditioned that the debt service coverage ratio is 1.25. And I'll tell you what that 1.25 means. In a simplest fashion, for every dollar of mortgage payment that you have to make $1.25 in net operating income. For every dollar of a mortgage payment, that means principal and interest, you have to make $1.25 of net operating income. And I'll teach you how to work backwards and analyze that and have an understanding of where you stand. Okay? And I'll actually give you guys a spreadsheet on and putting these numbers in, and you'll be able to figure it out.
For every dollar in a mortgage payment, you have to make $1.25 in net operating.
Net operating income. That's correct. And that's the base level. Okay?
That's PI only?
PI. Because remember, taxes and insurance are part of your direct cost. It's not like homes where you have impound accounts. Commercial properties don't have impound accounts. If they do, please let me know. I want to talk to them. Yeah. Yeah. It's only principal and interest. Next one I want to just briefly touch on is investment return calculations. So levered and unlevered. Do you guys know what those mean? Levered means leverage. Unlevered means all cash. Okay?
So levered, then I use some type of.
A loan. A loan. You used a loan.
That's levered.
Loan and cash, do you do that both or no?
Yeah.
Do all loans.
No, well,
It's like half and half?
well, that's it. Remember, you can't do all 100% loan. You're going to have to put some cash in. Yeah. Yeah. So now there's two things that I want to bring up. ROI versus IRR. Okay, ROI stands for return on investment. IRR stands for internal rate of return. There's a big difference in these two numbers. As an example, let's just say you invested $100,000, and 5 years from now you doubled it. What is your ROI? 100%, right? Yeah, ROI is 100% for 5 years. So the misconception is that you made 20% a year. That's false. Why? Because that's not, it doesn't take into consideration time value of money. Time, everything. So your dollar has to grow, right? Every year. So while the ROI takes into a singular point of interest, it doesn't take time value of money at all into it, right? IRR does, internal rate of return, meaning that it takes into consideration what you invested in year 0, your cash flow from year 1, 2, 3, 4, and the cash flow from year 5 with the sale date, and it takes all of that into consideration. It tells you what type of annual return on your investment. Typically, when I invest in properties, and my investors and I work on properties, we want to see a minimum of 12% unlevered internal rate of return. You know, they're like, Pavan, you can't do that in LA. I bet you can. You just need to know how to do it or where to find it. You know, it's all about structure. You know, and there's ways to do it.
And you'll go more in detail in that class.
Yes. Oh yeah. Not just how is analyzing it is going to be very, very important, because there's a lot of, not only are you going to be able to qualify a deal, but there's some investors that tell you, well, hey, Pavan, I'm looking for an 8% IRR. You know, that's what I'm looking for the next 5 years. I want to invest in a property that generates that type of return. Now, don't think that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for an 8% return every, 1 year, and then next year they want another 8%. That's not how you calculate it, okay? The next thing is sensitivity analysis. This is what we call a what-if scenario, right? Now, I kind of gave 2 examples, interest rates, cap rates, right? So what's happening in the market with interest rates right now? Going up, right? What does that mean when it comes to financing deals? How does it impact right here? LTV, debt service coverage ratio. You're going to have to put more money down. Your loan is going to be less. So, yep, exactly. That's what I was looking for. Less buying power. What happens when interest rates grow? There's a chance that cap rates might follow. That means what a property is trading at today at 3.75 will likely trade at 4.25 if an interest rate jump up a whole percent, 1.5%. It's going to happen. Now, LA is a little funny right now because we're in a market where there's a lack of supply, so it's holding up, you know. But it's going to give. I guarantee it's going to give. And we're waiting for that to give because we want to buy again.
Quick question. What's your, I know this is going out of the, it's in between kind of, what's your opinion on, compared from, not your opinion, but what are the facts from January to now on where you see the cap rate? Has it been maintaining?
They've been maintaining for the most part. You might see 1/10 of an increase, but it's very small. But keep in mind, income-producing properties, there's income being produced. They're always in demand. I haven't seen a huge inventory pop in supply, but there's realtors are giving scare tactics to these sellers that, hey, we have this rent control laws coming in, and you should sell now and take money out and reinvest. I hear that even with my family's deals, right, or my investors' deal. They have agents calling. They just refer them to me, and I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do about it? What are you going to do about it? But we will start seeing it. Would you believe me if I tell you that I've been telling my investors to hold back a little bit? Not because I don't want to make money and close deals. I want them to make more money because I want them to always want to work with me than any other agent. You know, because some people that know me know that I'm an analyst and an advisor first. I'm a realtor second.
You're looking out for their best interest.
There's a book called Freakonomics. If you guys ever get to get an opportunity, there's a brief section about realtors selling somebody else's property to a realtor selling their own property. They'll hold off because when you're selling somebody else's property, you're in it for the money. So if a property is being listed for $300,000, you get an offer at $290. Of course, you're going to try to shepherd it through because it's so close. But if it's your own property, you're going to hold off for the $300,000 because you're not spinning your wheels. You're living there, right? So, but it's your own property. You want the top dollar, you know, and you want that extra $10,000, you know. I don't mean to reference. It's just facts of life, guys. Because in our business, we're commission driven. So it's an imperfect system. And I always tell people, like sometimes I charge an hourly fee for advisory services, and I tell my investors, you could keep the damn commission. You're going to pay me an hourly fee, you know. And it doesn't matter if the commission is $100,000, $200,000. But if I'm going to be if I only spend 50 hours and my fee is $250 an hour, that's all you pay for, and you keep the rest. But you pay me up front. You know, reason because they know at the end at that point there's no reason for me to mislead them because I'm going to get paid either way. You know, right? So I give them a choice to my investors. Which one do you want? Do you want to pay up front? It's going to be smaller, or you want to pay on the back end where I get my money, you know, a larger piece of the pie because I'm taking the risk, you know. Can I go to the next slide, or do you have specific questions on this?
What are the average rates for commercial right now?
Depends. Oh, rates. That's definitely a lender question, but I'm seeing around mid fives to high fives, you know, give or take. Are you a lender or a realtor?
No, a realtor, but I have a client that's looking for a commercial loan, and I've never done one, so I just kind of want to know what ballpark.
I could introduce you to a few commercial lenders if you want to, you know. Depending on the size, if it's a large enough loan, I could take you directly to a Wall Street bank. Okay, okay.
Why do cap rates go up when interest rates go up?
There's a direct correlation with indirect correlation, right? So when cap rates rise, that means purchasing power goes down to people, right? If properties are not trading, you know, then basically they have to lower the price. There's a property that they just lowered the price to 4 point.
First one?
Yeah, the first one, right? They just lowered it because it was too high. So as cap rates rise and less and less people can afford to buy that property, it pushes the price down, right?
Right.
So that means interest rates rise. I'm sorry. Okay, so as interest rates rise and it pushes the value down, the cap rates are rising in the process while it's being pushed down. So it's like residential real estate, right? I use this as an example because it's easy to. As you have increased supply, it has a push on the market for a lower price, right? When you have when lending is constrained, there's constraints in lending. That means purchasing power of income producing property reduces people's ability to buy, right? So that means two things will happen. One, it forces the owners to reduce the price, which is forcing the cap rates up, or getting some type of creative scenario, or an investor that's all cash, institutional investor will most likely offer much less anyway. So, and it's going to push the cap rates even higher. You know, there's a lot of elements to it. I wish I could give you a 1, 2, 3, 4. It's pressure in the market. You know, there's other elements that I always do a sensitivity analysis. What if? So, for example, this right here, can be somewhat of a what-if analysis, meaning that, you know, let's just say if I want to sell this property and I bought this 5 years ago and my income at that point was 300,000 and I'm projecting my income to be 388, right? And it's pretty stable in the market. But I also do this sensitivity analysis with a range of cap rates. I can see what the low end, if the market is harsh and rigid, or if it's favorable, I know I could get a higher value, right? So I understand my value range on what I would sell 5 years down the line. And that's something that I'm going to teach you guys how to do on when you put together a financial model. And like I said, how well are you guys versed with formulas?
What kind of formulas? We're talking about scientific ones?
No, baby formulas. Hey, you asked. Financial formulas.
Cap rate stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're coachable.
Oh, what happened?
Good answer.
I said we're coachable.
Oh, absolutely. 10 minutes, okay. So now we learned a lot of different elements, right? So in the next 3 sessions, you're going to be learning property data and how to collect, how to conduct your due diligence, market data, how to research the market on how trends are going, financial analysis in preparing your financial statements to present to potential investors, and we put it all together. We actually put together a pitch deck comprised of an executive summary, property information sheet, market analysis, financial analysis, and a conclusion, right? So people, like I have investors that call me and say, hey, Pavan, I need you to do an assessment on a property that we want to buy. I actually do this for them. I actually go end to end, put something together, and I tell them, is it financially feasible to buy this property at X? If it's not, what would make sense? You know, make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So I know this is different from what a lot of the normal training programs are out there. That's because I want to truly make sure you guys understand the breadth of information that you as a commercial agent should understand and should know to be very successful in the commercial real estate market. Okay? So, final thing. There is a cost to this. Okay? Yes. So, to do all of this, all classes, we're charging about $600 per agent. Now, I talked to the owner of Keller Williams. Now, all Keller Williams SELA agents, I was told that that the owner will take care of. So, just want to let you guys know. So,
I know, right?
That's a good pitch. We're moving that one again.
well, I mean, Keller Williams, the owner is really trying to push to educate as many people as possible. But in essence, it's not like I'm still going to get paid. I don't care, guys. You know, if it's coming from you or the owner of Keller Williams, I really don't care. Now, time is of value, right? I want you to understand. I'm always I'm a real advocate of education, but for somebody to educate you, it takes time. It takes resources. You know, it's not something. When I put together for each one of these classes, I end up probably spending 20, 30 hours, you know? And I'm not trying to, don't get the violin out. I just don't, this one what? But it does take time, you know? It's all about, again, time value of money, right? You know? But I'm trying to keep it as low as possible for everybody to benefit. Believe it or not, the amount of knowledge that you will get on all different elements of real estate, I think it's a very lucrative program. So The next step that we're going to do is I kind of want to do. I know there was a lot of questions that some of you were not able to ask. So, any questions that I can answer?
On anything, you guys.
Anything? Yes.
And this price also includes when you take us to the site, right?
Yeah.
Going to the site,
Mhm.
looking at all of this
Yep.
materials, tonight transportation.
Um,
Can I
okay, guys. So the question is, how many sessions? So likely it's. I'm trying to combine a few of these together, but I'm not sure if I can. But it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4.
And that's all included in that.
And yeah. So the first set of session is actually for multifamily, and depending on people's feedbacks and my surveys, we'll see if I'm going to introduce the office session and the retail session. The land development session, certain people ask me, I think it's too early because I need you guys to understand all different kind of asset classes before I could get into that, because this is fun. For me at least, I get a kick out of it, and I would love to share it with you guys. You know, I know some of you guys already saw some of my projects. Hope you guys like it. You know, you guys ready? Yeah, thank you. Any questions?
I do, but I don't know if maybe it's like in the future. Like I'm looking at the Cherry Avenue one, and for the gross multiplier, it's like high. It's at 15, but the cap is 3.8. So which one would you go by?
I will look at both, but I will look at. So first thing I would do is I would do this. What makes sense for me, right? 2, I would just call the agent. Hey, are the rents low? Is that why the cap rates are low? You know, if that's the case, you know. But just remember, if the rents are low, that means we know that there's an upside. It warrants you conducting your research and making sure that, hey, is this something that I'm going to pitch? Now, I don't want you guys to think that the research that you're going to conduct initially is going to take you days on end, or like 10, 20, 30 hours. I'm talking about spending 3 to 4 hours to truly understand if it warrants any further action on your part. Yes, and your name, please. Ivania. With a D? Okay.
I have a question. If you are the investor's buyer, which one of the 10x, what is the maximum that you would go? You said that you wouldn't go to 17.
No.
But what is, let's say,
So,
you really like the property or whatever.
so I'm biased, and I'll tell you why I'm biased. I build my own product. So my GRMs usually on multifamily are usually around 8, 9. You know? Yeah. So, but if I was an investor trying to buy, I would like to keep it around 13 to 14 max. You know, anything above that, you're really, really pushing the envelope, and unless there's this tremendous upside that you could justify, I probably wouldn't execute. You know, like for example, there's some properties that the GRMs are 16. Some of these might be those cases, right? Let's just say the GRM is 17 on one of them, but the rents are at 70% of market. There's an uptick that you could benefit from, and it's in a non-rent control area. Okay, so there's an opportunity here that we could take advantage of. Now, that opportunity will come down to having the right property manager, or if you know how to property manage yourself, how to execute the deal. So, and trust me, when people can see that value add, they'll pull the trigger pretty quick. That's why I said, you know, sometimes it does warrant a few extra hours of your time to see if there is a real good opportunity to proceed.
So I have 2 questions for you.
Oh.
Let's say it's
You only get one.
well, me too. I got 2 questions.
First question.
Okay, first question. It's a hotel commercial deal. Do we still go off of the 5% vacancy?
No. I'll tell you why. Hotel vacancies fluctuate tremendously. Sometimes there are 20% vacancy rate on an annual basis. So it comes down to the market. LA, I believe, I haven't done as much research on it, so don't quote me on it. I think it's like around anywhere from 12 to 18, give or take, you know, because it's daily occupancy. It's hard. Weekdays are 40%, 50% is vacant, you know, and sometimes that vacancy rate might be 30%. You know, hotels are tough, you know.
So second question is the GSI, same thing for hotels. What if the seller's not reporting like the true GSI?
Okay. Reporting.
Like, I mean, they might be making more, like in a motel or hotel situation, but they're not reporting it.
Damn Indians.
So
Hey, I'm knocking myself, okay? It's okay.
Just trying to be subtle.
But that's what I'm running into right now. I have a motel. I asked for financials and they said, they're actually making more, but this is what they're showing. So in that situation,
Now, okay, so there's a way to do it, you know, but it takes work on your part. So this is when I throw on my, so I was a forensic accountant, so I will throw that hat on at any given time and basically get in there and look at all their numbers. And I basically qualify it. That's what it's going to take if they want top dollar, you know? So here's the thing. You can't pitch a value-add proposition with false numbers, right? Because you're going to have to justify it. The first thing I would say, well, this looks fishy. Give me your tax returns. You know, because most likely, if it's in most commercial properties are usually structured in an LLC format, general partnerships, whatever the case is. So I'll probably ask for the tax returns, such as the 1065, you know, which is a partnership returns, and I would review those and make sure that it makes sense, you know.
or just offer lower for the property.
Yeah. I mean, lower the better for me. I'll buy it. I'm kidding. I'm not a hotel guy. I'm kidding. But I mean, but if you want to impress them, I would basically look at it deeper, and create an opportunity for a buyer to take advantage. Not take advantage of the seller, but trying to justify it. You know. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's well worth it, because now that seller, that buyer is going to look at you like, oh shit, this girl knows what the hell she's doing. You know something? I want her to analyze my next deal. I want her to help me out. But the first deal, second deal, you just have to be willing to put it on.
On my part, would I ask seller for, okay, well, you're saying you're making this much additional, show me what backs that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, supporting data. They have a POS system, point of sale system, right? Those point of sale systems can be maneuvered, you know. Sometimes those point of sale systems, so if it's cash, they're putting it in their pocket, they're not registering it, right? You know, and you can only do that on motels. You know, you can't do that on hotels because their POS system is top line. And I mean, how are you going to assign a hotel room without putting it into the POS system? Motels you could get away with because sometimes it's handwritten, you know, old school fashion, right? That's
If
the
it's
tougher.
If it's like the bigger
Yeah.
chains,
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Did you hear it? Sorry. Yeah, they might. The information will most likely be in the POS system. And here's the thing: on the point of sale system, one of the things that people get creative on is they could actually go in there and you know, do returns. You know, and you could actually see all of that information. It's available in that system because it's like any type of accounting system. They are simply they're documented every single time. Like I use QuickBooks, right? If I made an error, right, and I have to delete it, it's still in the system. When I delete it and I put in a new number, um, that that those steps are already accounted for. So if I get audited, and base, yeah, yeah, and you have to account for it, and yeah, D- yeah. Did that answer your question? That did? Okay.
When you are representing the seller and you're trying to, and you're selling a multifamily
Uh-huh.
in rent control, and you're pretty much selling what is it called?
Existing rents.
Well, yeah, the existing rents obviously are low, but when you're saying selling the upside potential, what is it that you're looking at?
There's no upside potential. Yeah, 3% increase. That's it. That's it. It's as simple as that. There is law firms that could actually kick, that focus on rent control issues. They try to nitpick on all the issues that tenants have, that tenants do, late rents, whatever the case is, and they'll throw everything at the tenant to get them out. But they still have to, it costs $25,000 to vacate them. We have a property right now we're having a headache and a half with. The current owner offered the tenant $20,000 to move out. He started looking in the marketplace for another place to move into and realized, oh shoot, I'm going to have to pay double the rent. I'm not moving out anymore. Sorry. It happened. It happens. Hopefully I hate rent control. If I see a property that somebody pitches me in rent control, I'm telling them, dude, you're barking up the wrong tree. No, that's fine. Selling them is selling them. But yeah. The only benefit is if you're a homeowner buying it. As a homeowner, rent control law allow a occupant that's planning on occupying one of the units to vacate the newest tenant in the property. Just remember, newest tenant, not the lowest paying tenant. That's what a lot of buyers and agents think, right?
They could have been there for 30 years and they're paying low, but not the newest tenant.
Yeah, it's the newest tenants. They can only vacate the newest tenant. They're usually the ones that are paying the most. Go figure. Yeah, whatever the case is. But the point is, that's the only person that you could actually vacate. Okay, so here's the thing, guys. I don't do rent control, so I don't know the law enough. I know just the nuts and bolts of it. Other than helping somebody client it, I steer clear from investing in rent control areas. Literally, I steer clear. I don't want to deal with the headache. I have enough headaches with the tenants that we have. Yeah. Okay, guys. I think I might take one or two more questions, and that's it. And yes.
If you're evaluating rents, do you use any apps like Rent-O-Meter, or do you go by
I do my own.
buildings?
How do you get the rent?
CoStar reports. I actually call local apartments and find their rents. So you have field research and online data research. You could do Rent-O-Meter. You could use all of those. Yeah. If there's no other questions, I did have a favor from a few of you guys. If you guys are up for, if you're not camera shy, a small testimonial will be great. What you guys thought about the class?
I got a lot of information that I've been wanting.
Did you? Good.
Yes.
Good. So would you? Okay, perfect.
It was awesome. I can't wait for the next one.
Absolutely.
When is the next one?
In 2 weeks, I believe. We're going Tuesdays. Yeah. So we're gonna finalize it in the next week. We might push it out an extra week just so we could get everything situated, because we want to get an idea of who's interested and who's not, so that way we could move forward.
Maybe next time I would like, for like 3 or 4 of us, I don't know, maybe take more time and for us to actually go there and work on it, on the numbers, so that we can
Sure.
be more familiar with it.
Sure. I'm okay with that.
And if you guys want us to do numbers with you, we'll be more than happy, you guys. property and you want to like understand it, we'll do it, because once you know this formula, you're on it, you guys, you're on the right path.
Just keep in mind, we're about to launch one-on-one coaching soon on commercial properties. So if you guys really want, a hands-on approach, so people understand that I'm a very action-driven individual in the sense that I just don't like to teach theory. I want you guys to, feel it and understand it, And that's what I would give you guys in comparison to what I'm not going to compare myself to anybody, but the fact is, my job is to give you the brass tacks of a deal, Hopefully this is just an introductory, and I hope it gave you guys enough information to really understand what we can offer, and I'm hoping that you guys can actually can take advantage of it.